Now, this is probably the most important news that we're going to discuss today. Russia announced this new like hypersonic glider delivery system for nuclear weapons, and supposedly, according to Russia-owned media RT America, the United States doesn't have any defense for it just yet. We don't have anything that can counter it. So nuclear deterrence is pretty much out the window at this point if all of this information is correct.
Do you like ads?
No, I don't like ads.
That's why we created Ad Remover.
Oh.
It's a product that makes it so you never have to see it.
Our top story this hour, a major new missile delivery system called Avangard has been tested and approved in Russia. RT is the first channel to show unique footage from the Defense Ministry's first public test run of the hypersonic glide vehicle, which is capable of firing nuclear missiles. We get the rest of the story from RT's Maria Fanoshina reporting from Moscow.
Actually, Vladimir Putin, while he was overseeing the test launch of Russia's weapon known as Avangard Live, he actually explained that, saying that it was great success, it was excellent New Year's gift to the entire nation, and also that it will ensure Russia's security for decades. So I think this is all we have to know about this launch. I have to remind you that Avangard was among new nuclear strategic weapons that Vladimir Putin presented earlier in March, saying that Russia had to develop its military industry and its missiles, its weapons, following U.S.'s success in this sphere and U.S.'s development of their anti-missile and missile defenses. So it's all about Russia's security as far as we can understand from what Vladimir Putin said. Just to remind you what happened. This boost glide weapon was launched from the Dombarovsky missile base in the southern Ural Mountains, and as Kremlin reported, successfully hit a training target on the Kura shooting range on Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia's east, some 6,000 kilometers away. But that's not maybe even very impressive. You've just said that this weapon is said to be able to circle the Earth in just 30 minutes, so 6,000 kilometers is nothing for Avangard.
But it can circle the Earth in 30 minutos. 30. Hold on a second. We need to really understand what the fuck. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Let's say, how can we do this? What's a good way to measure with this? Well, let's see. Port Moresby, directions, flying, let's see, California. How's it just, how far is it really just from California to Papua New Guinea? That's, Google's not telling me the distance here. How do I find out the distance? Well, I mean, as you can see, okay, maybe this is a good enough frame of reference. A regular plane going from California to Papua New Guinea, does it really take 23 hours? Hold on, how about from Japan? I guess that would be a more, or let's just say, so we're talking about Russia. Let's say from Moscow to California. Okay, so that'd be like, and that's kind of cheating because on the top there, right? But they're saying this thing can circle the whole globe in 30 minutes? If it takes 15 hours to get from here to Moscow, that just gives you an idea of how fast this new weapon is that the Russians have.
Its main feature, and a very important one, is that it is said to be able to maneuver while flying, while gliding, so that it can avoid anti-missile defenses. It is reported, and Vladimir Putin repeated it today after the launch, that it cannot be intercepted by the enemy's missile defenses. So it is almost uncatchable. And also, we hear that it may carry a 2-megaton warhead. To be honest, I don't quite understand what exactly is this, because that sounds really huge and impressive.
2-megaton warhead. Let me see. Let's see. 2-megaton warhead. Nuclear weapon yield. It's like measured at basically as a TNT equivalent. So how much is in a megaton? Megaton is millions of tons of TNT. So, I mean, it's definitely many times more powerful than the nuclear bombs that have dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because little boy was 13 to 18 kilotons. That's thousands of TNT, thousand I don't know, 1,000 sticks of TNT. I don't know how this shit is measured really exactly. Fat Man was 20 to 22. Those are kilotons. You need 1,000 kilotons to make 1 megaton. So it would really be something like this, the B-83 nuclear bomb, but a little bit stronger than that, I guess. And that's enough to wipe out a whole city, I'm pretty sure. This was developed in the 1970s. So we've only really seen 2 nuclear bombs dropped on targets, you know, on cities. I mean, I would assume that, you know, if Russia or China were to drop nuclear bombs onto the United States, well, I don't know about China, but I don't think Russia would necessarily bomb cities. I think they would be more interested in attacking military bases. You know, there's the idea of like air bursting, like, you know, just exploding it, like in, like, not even like just in the air, just so that there isn't as much fallout. Because if you detonate the nuclear bomb as it hits the ground, it, you know, the soil absorbs all the radiation, gets blown up into the air, and that makes it worse. But from what I understand, from what I've read, if it were to if they launch a nuclear missile and explodes in midair, it you know, it won't do, it'll just damage things, but it won't have so much fallout. Because ideally, I don't think China or Russia want to completely scorch America. You know, there's a lot of valuable resources here. You know, if they could figure out a way to conquer America, I'm sure they would. China is an, you know, rising imperialistic power all up in the South China Sea. So do you ever go looking on Google Maps? Sometimes I look at it just for fun, and then you see some islands and stuff. They're invisible, like you can't see what's going on. So let's look at the South China Sea right here. So we're talking like this area. You know, what are some, let's see, China Islands imperialist. Let me see. Lands bombers on island. This was back in May. Look at this. They basically take like a fucking patch of sand and like reinforce that shit, basically making almost an artificial island just to put a base on it. They say which island this is? BBC, it'd be great if you told us what the fucking name of the island is. Oh. Okay. Okay, this is Woody Island. Let's see Woody Island. Woody Island. What is this? You see that one photo that we just saw? Oh shit, we can see. Look at this one. Dang, they set up all this? And the rapid expansion of China is probably, you know, the foreign threat that worries me the most. Because it looks like, you know, Russia is more interested in, like, reclaiming lands that were historically part of Russia, like Crimea was, like, a historically part of Russia. So it's understandable that they would want that little piece of land back. But China is looking to be more strategic about where they're capturing points here. It's like they're capturing some points that are like have some serious military significance against the United States, because you know you got Woody Island here, and you know the United States is just across the Pacific right over here. And so this is okay. This is the South China Sea right here. So they're trying to take over a lot of this stuff. And you know, I was just watching some documentaries about World War II. It's crazy that like pretty much everybody involved, all the major players in World War II were basically trying to start their own empire. Mussolini wanted to conquer the world. Hitler wanted to conquer the world. The Japanese wanted to conquer the world. I mean, UK was already conquering the world since before World War II through imperialism. And post-World War II pretty much opened the door for America to start conquering the world. Although, I mean, ever since its inception, America has been, you know, colonizing as well, especially with Latin America. Fucking raped Latin America, and you know, basically sold it off to like fruit companies and shit. So yeah, it's a bit of a concern, man. It's a bit of a concern. Also, because like China just has so many people and so much technology. They're constantly developing new technology, and they don't give a damn about ecological consequences. They're just gagging on smog over there, in a lot of these cities, and like just, you know, digging up all the resources. They're doing all kinds of shit, and you know, building ghost cities, and I don't know, man. Man, look how much desert there is. You ever notice how much desert there is? Those weren't always desert. More and more desert just, you know, is created due to mismanagement of our planet, particularly with communism. If you look up communism, ecological, is this a good one? Eco-socialism. If you think communism is bad for people, check out what it did to the environment. Okay, yeah, you can find stuff like this all over the internet, but they don't seem to have a good picture to really illustrate. Okay, this is bullshit. No, but if you look at, let's see, Stalin, environment. have the time to really start looking for a legitimate source for that. So you just have to look for it yourself. But I've seen plenty of documentation of the effects of communism on the environment, because, you know, under communism they just put people to work, just, you know, just fucking take whatever you can from the earth. I know that doesn't sound like a great argument because I didn't find a good source for that in the 2 minutes that I looked, but it's out there if you want to look for it. Anyway, let's get back to this crazy ass news that probably got ignored in the mainstream media. I don't see anybody talking about it on Twitter, that's for sure. People talking about Bird Box, and I mean, they're always talking about bitching about Trump. They're not talking about this hypersonic glider that could actually fucking kill some people, though.
And it shows how powerful this weapon is. And also, we know that it can fly the atmosphere at 20 times the speed of sound, again, bypassing the enemy's missile defenses. And Putin...
Is that Mach 20? 20 times the speed of sound? Because isn't Mach 1 the speed of sound? What is this? Well, we at least have some kind of aircraft that goes just as fast, but the point is this thing can dodge anti-aircraft somehow.
Himself said that it flies as a meteorite. So yeah, it's a very interesting weapon, and we heard from Russia's president that it will be used by Russia's strategic forces starting next year.
To continue this conversation, joining me now is former Pentagon official Michael Maloof. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today.
So here's the thing. I mean, I know that RT is a Russian national media organization, but as far as like news about America, they're pretty on point, and they often have a lot of American experts and things show up on their shows. So let's just continue here with this.
Hey, like Maria Fanoshina was saying, this weapon is pretty impressive. Putin even says it will be impossible to intercept this weapon, ensuring Russia's security, and he says even for decades to come. But how is that possible?
Well, it's quite possible given not only its hypersonic speed, the fact that it's maneuverable in space, and that we don't have an ABM system or an anti-ballistic missile system capable of hitting it at this time. And what's problematic is that these weapons are being developed when in response to President Trump's desire to put missiles in Europe, and that's what this is in response to, frankly. So we're going to be seeing a whole new array of new weapons systems, including missiles such as this, and it looks like we're involved now in a unregulated arms race once again, and this is unfortunate.
With Russia now, although the U.S., as you're saying, doesn't have anything in place that can defend itself against this weapon, this new hypersonic weapon, do you think, though, in the next decade or so, the U.S. will try to come up with something that can intercept it?
Well, intelligence probably was very aware of it. They're probably working on something now. The reality is we don't have anything now, and it'll take time. And given the turmoil in the budgets, the question is, will money be available? Money that has gone to finance wars could have been used to upgrade our capabilities, the U.S. capabilities, but that wasn't that.
And that's like the essential thing here, is that in this war on terrorism, we've been, our military has been sent out to hold these foreign countries, under our control so that we can extract their resources, right? But at the same time, you're spending billions and billions of dollars, and a lot of that money just finds its way into the military-industrial complex and a bunch of these other contractors, the weapons contractors, the aircraft makers, Boeing, whoever makes the weapons and stuff, like Glock, or I don't know what the fuck. What are the other popular ones? Whatever. You get the point. So instead of worrying about our own national defense, we're out there spreading our military out, fucking, This only helps those people that are involved getting a cut of that money. We're not getting like kickbacks from that shit. We're still in debt. Like, we're now like $21 trillion in debt. I mean, come on now. Obama contributed to the debt. Trump is contributing to the debt. I mean, eventually the economy is going to crash. If we don't pay back this debt, the dollar is going to just crash. It's not going to be worth anything. You're going to be carrying barrels of dollars to go buy a Snickers bar. Just like in Germany after World War I, where they literally carried barrels of money. Hyperinflation, baby. It's called hyperinflation. You see? Kids playing with stacks of money. Huh. This guy friggin' going to buy an apple, probably. When cash is worthless. Okay, she made a dress out of the cash. Well, she looks like she's chilling. The heck? Some more. I guess that was a popular thing. I don't know. But yeah.
That wasn't the case. So as a consequence, we're going to be leading from behind once again.
Maria Finoshina, she mentioned some of the features of this missile. They include flying almost 4,000 miles away. Yeah. The missile can withstand temperatures up to 3,632 degrees Fahrenheit. And according to Putin, obviously it can't be intercepted by any existing missile defense and can bypass the enemy's missile defense. Correct. So in what circumstances do you believe Russia would use this weapon? I
think only if attacked. I don't think it's a Russia.
So that's according to Putin. Who really knows if that's true or not? You got to realize that the United States, every country has, but especially the United States, has a bunch of technology that they don't tell us about. Generally speaking, going by history, the United States is about, like DOD, Department of Defense, DARPA, the agency in the government that creates new technology. They're typically like 50 years ahead of civilian technology. I used to work at the Intrepid Museum, and we had the Blackbird. And it was created in the 50s, but only revealed like within like the 90s or something like that. It was kept a secret for a while. The Lockheed is another military contractor. The Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird is a long-range Mach 3 plus strategic reconnaissance aircraft that was operated by the United States Air Force. So they had Mach 3 plus since like the 50s, pretty much. It was developed as a black project from the Lockheed A-12 reconnaissance aircraft in the 1960s. Okay, 60s, sorry, 60s. That was the Cold War then. By Lockheed, well, from post-World War II to like 1989, it was a Cold War. It was a long-ass Cold War. We're in a Cold War right now. We're in like Cold War II at this point. Okay, so it's basically invisible to radar, technology that, we assume that we didn't even have this. And it was used from 1964 to 1998. Since 1976, it has held the world record for the fastest air-breathing manned aircraft. So only one person actually could fly this. And fun fact, they had to wear a spacesuit and they had to crawl in because it was so narrow. They had to crawl in to get into the cockpit. So imagine how claustrophobic that was. But this thing could actually, like, basically go up to near space and remain invisible to radar. So it's not, the info isn't really popping out at me like when they revealed this, but basically I think it was after they finished using it, after it was put out of commission, that they actually revealed it. So
I think would not attack on its own, but it's meant to be a deterrent simply because given the ABM systems that the U.S. has deployed so far, it's actually threatened Moscow's and even China's nuclear deterrence. And this has posed a national security threat to both of them.
So if you don't know, the idea behind nuclear deterrence is that, well, I have a nuke and you have a nuke. We could kill each other, but if I were to launch a nuke at you, you would just launch a nuke back at me because, we likely won't be able to completely destroy you with the first attack. So then everybody dies, basically, right? With just about every nuclear system that there is before this new plane or whatever, you can detect when it's been launched. So this thing is so fast and maneuverable that it doesn't even matter if it's out there because you can't stop it. So having this kind of technology kind of ruins the whole nuclear, it ruins the playing field. It makes it uneven so that it gives Russia more of an upper hand as far as nuclear deterrence.
Of those countries, I think China also will be developing something very similar in the very, very near future. So the arms race is on, and this is the unfortunate thing. And we've got to be able to de-escalate. And the fact that the United States, particularly through John Bolton and company, want to pull out of all these arms treaties.
See, what this guy's saying is making sense. He's a former Pentagon official. But I'm sure if you were to pass a link over to the liberals obsessed with Russia collusion and shit like that, wouldn't even bother looking at this. You understand? Not to say that foreign governments don't try to interfere with other governments, but this dude Mueller was investigating Trump for like 2 years or over 2 years, like ever since he got inaugurated, and Trump hasn't been arrested. He's not in jail. I don't understand why these obsessed liberals keep saying every day on Twitter, "Oh, he's gonna get arrested. Oh, I can't wait, blah, blah, blah." It's mental illness, dude. It seriously is. Like, you're like creating a world that, in your mind, just, fabricated by, whatever left-wing media you're watching. And I'm not saying right-wing media is any better, but if you're just paying attention to left-wing media, they're spoon-feeding you an agenda. They're spoon-feeding you an ideology. You don't understand reality by just allowing an idea, just trying to adhere to an ideology, so that everything you look at in the world has to be filtered through this ideology. There's no way to understand anything outside of the ideology. And that's how people don't learn, they don't grow, and they drive themselves crazy, literally drive themselves crazy, exhibit legit psychological symptoms, because they can't handle the truth. They can't handle they can't handle their views being challenged. They can't handle considering other possibilities. Oh, well, if it feels good, if it feels like the right thing, and why listen to anything else? And anybody who disagrees with me is some kind of Republican, and if I'm a Republican, then whoever disagrees with me is a libtard, and all this nonsense. Doesn't this all apply to myself? In what way? Because I'm an independent. Thanks for joining the chat, Silverhawk. So, did you watch that show, Silverhawks? That was the shit. No. I bet you, Silver, I bet you assumed that I'm some kind of Republican. I am not. Is that what you assumed when you just jumped in here? This is what I'm talking about. This is the exact topic I'm talking about. What's up, Artie? Welcome to the chat. One of these streams. Hey, man, if you like it, stick around. If not, then don't. I mean, I have an independent viewpoints. If you want to discuss different topics, I'm here. If you just want to stick to whatever opinions that you're currently recycling in your brain that are fed to you by the mainstream media, that's cool too. I mean, it's up to you. I'm not here to try to convince anybody of anything. I'm just here to do a show and share my opinions, but I'll be happy to reasonably discuss different things. But back to this news story about this freaking weapon that the Russians just developed that ruins the whole nuclear deterrence idea, since we don't have any apparently, well, according to Putin, we don't have any, the United States doesn't have any defense system that can counter this. And this is a former Pentagon official who's discussing this.
Arms control treaties, I think, is very unfortunate.
So what would you advise take place?
Well, I would advise that we calm down and start working and talking to one another. Right now, that's not happening.
That's correct. The liberal media will have you believe that, hey, we shouldn't talk to Russia. We shouldn't talk to our enemies. Simply for the fact that, because it appears Trump is trying to be diplomatic. Don't you understand the mental illness in that? That no matter what, and I'm not a Trump supporter, okay? Don't get me wrong. But you have to see that, despite the fact that most politicians are fucking corrupt and they have none of your interests in mind, whether they're Republican or Democrat, you got to be able to objectively acknowledge when they do something right or when they do something wrong. So, for example, recently, another news story, just a kind of a side note, recently in the media, liberals were bashing Trump for pulling out of Syria. But we should be pulling out. This war on terror is bullshit. It was bullshit when Bush was in power. It was bullshit when Obama was in power. It's still bullshit. We shouldn't be out in the Middle East. It doesn't help. It doesn't help. What's Silverhawk got to say? I'm not making that assumption. I'm saying that everyone views the world through their own lens. I agree. I agree with you. I'm actually from Australia, so I don't even understand what Republicans, libs stand for. Okay, well, I mean, you gotta be specific when you say something as general as, doesn't all of this apply to yourself? Because I don't know how long you've been watching or what you're responding to. So I'm sorry to have misconstrued, what you were asking me or whatever. But here in America, we have a lot of vocal partisans that either are all Republican or nothing, or Democrat or nothing. Okay, and the fact of the matter is, there isn't that much of a difference between Democrat or Republican. If you look at Obama's policies and Bush's policies, very similar, and Trump's policies, very similar. They're all spending a bunch on the military, all racking up debt. We're now $21 trillion in debt. None of these politicians are trying to pay down the national debt. Eventually, the dollar is going to crash. So many economic experts keep talking about this. Keep expecting this to happen. But anyways, we're getting a little bit off topic here. We're talking about this missile that Russia is developing that I'm concerned about for sure. I believe that every nation should have a strong defense. I mean, wouldn't you want to have defense? Wouldn't you want to be able to defend yourself if someone came in, try to rob your house or something like that? And you got a lot of liberals in America that are against gun ownership, but don't the police carry guns? Don't they protect you with weapons? I mean, they also fucking shoot people that shouldn't be shot, which is why I think people should be able to arm themselves, which I believe in the Second Amendment, okay? Because if someone tries to kill me, you better believe I'm going to fucking kill them. I'm going to do everything I can to not die. That's the number one thing. I mean, that's the number one thing for all beings. It's survival. You have to survive.
Now, I want to go back to something Maria Finoshina mentioned as you were watching her piece. She mentioned something to the effect of a 2-megaton warhead, and she said that didn't really mean much to her. For the average person, could you explain what that could be?
2 megatons is pretty large. It's probably about 10 times larger than Hiroshima.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So thank you so much. We're going to leave
Pleasure.
that right there.
10 times larger than Hiroshima. So I looked at that. We looked at that earlier. The bomb that dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they were between like 15 and 20 kilotons. This is 2 megatons. So there's 1,000 kilotons in a megaton, right? That's how that works, right? So Russia has this thing that could just like completely wipe out a huge city. Like, I mean, I can't even really imagine that because, I mean, the bombs we dropped on Japan, like, completely decimated those cities. And those were much smaller, much less powerful. So, this was a big part of the news I wanted to discuss there. So we're going to move on to the next topic and see what else there is to talk about. So, I mean, yeah, part of the news was that Trump pulled out of Syria. I mean, here's the thing. Because he's putting a lot of money into the military. This pulling out of Syria, it's a good step. But, I mean, we need to pull out of Iraq and Afghanistan as well. And I'm sure there's like special forces in and out of Iran. Things like that. I mean, seriously, we just need to leave them alone, leave them to their own devices. Iran isn't trying to conquer the world like China or Russia is, well, particularly China.